So let's work on some Black Forest whoopie pies. We're gonna start by putting together a chocolate whoopie pie batter. We're gonna start first by combining all of our dry ingredients, and that's a little bit of all-purpose flour, cocoa powder. We're gonna do some baking soda and salt. Okay, we're gonna mix that all together with a little whisk here. I like to whisk my dry ingredients, especially when there's cocoa powder and baking soda and all these things. Helps distribute all the ingredients, break up any lumps. It's gonna require less mixing time when we start adding the dry ingredients. All right, I'm gonna now crack a few eggs. And then we're gonna assemble all of the wet ingredients into the electric mixer. I try to use local free-ranging eggs whenever I can. It's just a great way. They have definitely a lot more flavor. And it's a nice way to support your local farmers. All right, we're gonna combine canola oil and yogurt along with white sugar and brown sugar, the eggs and the vanilla all together. And you can just kind of combine this into the mixer all together. This is a really simple recipe. Everything comes together nicely. It's also got a really big chocolate flavor that I love. Whoopie pies are really simple to make, but sometimes piping them out can be a little tricky. But don't be intimidated. If after you do it a couple times, your recipe really easy to do. So I've got these the wet ingredients looking pretty good. I'm just gonna scrape down the bowl a little bit with my rubber spatula. We're just about ready to add the dry ingredients. Once the eggs have been broken up and all the ingredients are combined in the mixer, let's just add those dry ingredients there. It comes together really nicely, really easily. Add that a little bit gradually just so you don't get any blowouts with all the dry ingredients. Again, we're gonna scrape down the bowl real quick. You always wanna make sure you get right underneath the mixer, right on that dimple there of the electric mixer. That's where the ingredients tend to gather. All right, we're just about finished up. When it's almost fully incorporated, but not quite, I pull it off the electric mixer and then I just finish it up with my rubber spatula, just finish the mixing by hand. Again, it prevents over mixing. You can sort of make sure that everything looks good. I can just look at that, I can smell it. It smells awesome. That's a really chocolatey whoopie pie. The batter's looking great. I'm really happy with that. All right, right now I'm gonna just set this aside to sort of relax for a few minutes, and then I'm gonna show you a few tips on how to pipe out whoopie pies. All right, let's get ready to pipe out these Black Forest whoopie pies. We've got the chocolate batter. I have a regular cookie sheet and a piece of parchment paper on that. The parchment is going to be great for letting you get the whoopie pies off when they're done baking. If you have a sill pad, you know, the like flexible non-stick pads, those work really, really well. I'm going to use a disposable pastry bag with a round tip on it. It's a great tool to use for whoopie pies. It will make your piping a lot easier. You can definitely use a Ziploc bag, just like a baggie. You cut a little hole in the bottom, pipe it out of that. That's another great alternative if you don't want to go out and buy all these ingredients or all these supplies. You don't have to buy them. That's just fine. Okay, so the batter did sit for a little bit, so it firms up a little bit. It's a nice texture now, easy to pipe. If it's a little bit firmer, if it's set, it's going to be easier to pipe out the whoopie pies so the batter doesn't just run. You can refrigerate that batter for a few minutes if you want. It's really up to you. I like to refrigerate. In the shop we usually refrigerate it overnight, but you don't have to do that. All right, to properly pipe, you want to get all the filling at the bottom of your bag, twist it around to make it almost like a balloon of chocolate whoopie pie batter. And when you're piping, you want to hold the pastry bag straight up and down and apply pressure by squeezing with your hand, and then just go ahead and start making the whoopie pie. Usually I just try to make them a couple inches in diameter. One thing also, you want to hold your pastry tip about the same height above the paper as you do each time to make them uniform in depth and not just width, because that's an important part of it too. And again, if they're not perfect, don't worry about it. You're making homemade whoopie pies. No one's going to complain. No one's going to get upset. It's just a delicious dessert. Okay, so we'll bake them one tray at a time. I'm going to stick these in the oven and get them going so we can get them out and cool off just in time to fill them with some delicious cherry flavored filling. All right. All right, those are going to bake in a 350-degree oven for about between 9 and 12 minutes. But you want to make sure that they are set and the pie, the whoopie pie, springs back just a little bit when you touch it. That's how you know they're done. You'll get a chocolate aroma too as another real indication that they're ready to go. And once they're out, they're going to just take a few minutes to pipe. While we're waiting for those to bake and cool, we'll get the filling ready. Okay, let's get ready and make up the filling for the Black Forest whoopie pies. Straightforward cream cheese filling. We've got a little bit of butter and a little bit of cream cheese. We're going to start creaming those in the electric mixer. Do this at low speed. Okay. Right now I'm going to add a little bit of salt. And then I'm going to add a little bit of cherry liqueur. I'm using a domestic product. It's made in the US. It's cherry liqueur, but it's a little bit, it's more of a eau de vie or a distilled spirit. If you're making a traditional Black Forest cake, you need to use a product called Kirschwasser, and that's literally cherry water, and that is a product that comes specifically from the Black Forest region of Germany, which is where a Black Forest cake gets its name. It's all about the cherry, the Kirschwasser, the eau de vie. These are things that are going to really take it to the next level and transform it from just a simple cake into a Black Forest cake. So I've got the cherry liqueur, cream cheese, salt, and butter. I'm going to start adding a little bit of confectioner's sugar, a little at a time. I can really smell the cherry in that. It's awesome. All right, that's coming together nicely. I'm just going to scrape down the bowl really quickly. I've got a lot of confectioner's sugar at the bottom. And that's the part you want to make sure gets mixed in. And the texture that you're going for on this is a little bit on the firmer side. You want that whoopie pie to hold together, and you want enough confectioner's sugar so that the frosting, or excuse me, so that the filling is nice and firm. It'll hold on to that whoopie pie. Okay, that's just about where I want it to be. Let me take a quick look. I'm going to pull it off. So I'm going to scrape down the bowl, get a little bit of the filling off there. I want it to be firm enough to hold its shape while it's in the whoopie pie. Yeah, that's a nice consistency. I like that. All right, so let's get ready with the cherries, a little bit more of the eau de vie, and the chocolate whoopie pies to make the Black Forest whoopie pie. All right, let's get ready to assemble the Black Forest whoopie pies. So I've got some baked whoopie pies. I've got some chopped up dried cherries. Got a little bit more of the eau de vie, the cherry flavored liqueur. And I've got some cream cheese cherry filling. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen these whoopie pies from the pan, and I'm going to turn half of them over, and those are going to be the ones that I fill. And I'm also going to take a little bit more of the cherry liqueur, and I'm just going to brush lightly on just half of these. If you really want a stronger cherry flavor, you can do on both the top and the bottom. I like it a little bit subtle, and there is a lot of alcohol in this, so take it easy. Don't eat whoopie pies and drive. All right, so I've got a little bit of the eau de vie on there. Now I'm going to use a pastry bag that I don't have a tip in. I'm just going to cut a little bit off the end of it. It's just to kind of make this easier. You can definitely use, again, a Ziploc bag that you cut a hole in, or you could do a little spatula and just sort of spread a small amount on each whoopie pie. But I like a pastry bag. It's something I'm comfortable with, and it just makes the whole process go pretty quickly. All right. So by putting the cherry flavor in the filling, as well as brushed on the whoopie pie, you're gonna get a nice cherry note to these, which is, again, that's the key to the Black Forest cake. That's the key to these Black Forest whoopie pies, to get that cherry flavor going. And these dried cherries are actually really great. They're very juicy. If you have some that are not quite as juicy, you can certainly plump them up. You can take a little bit of the eau de vie or the cherry liqueur and sort of just soak them in that for a little bit. You can heat it up and soak it. You can use orange juice if you don't want to use eau de vie. You could use cherry juice if you want to reconstitute them a little bit. But I would just put a little on each whoopie pie. It's just another little hint of cherry, and it'll also be attractive on the finished product. They're so juicy that they're sticking together a little bit. All right, so that's about the last thing I need to do before I put the tops on here. These are looking really good. Okay, Black Forest whoopie pies. Chocolate whoopie pie with a cherry eau de vie filling and dried cherries. Awesome.